guys, and welcome back here to the Dev Realm, and today we're carrying on our series. And if you guys remember, in the last episode what we did is that we have set up our character. He's jumping, he's walking, and is everything good. So what we're gonna do for the video of today is that we are going to set up our UI element so we can change our character thing. So the first thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go back to our main here, our player. I am gonna change our player location here. Gonna go back, drop it something like here, right? I'm gonna just put this guy here because I want our character to be static as we create the assets and everything. Right, so the next thing that we are going to do, we're going to open up our modular character, right? We're going to create here a custom event, and we're going to call API disable movement, right? And here we're going to get our controller, and I think it's called enable input. Now set enable. Let me just double check here. So yeah, it's controller set input disable input. Yeah, that's the one. So we need to disable the input, and this is going to be the player controller. So what we need to do here is that we are casting the player controller. That I'm just gonna save this to player controller ref, right? I'm gonna plug this here, plug it in there. Great. Now we got the player controller, and then we can do something like this. So let's just press play and see if we can move. We still can move. Let's double check if what can we do here. Let me just double check one. Alright guys, yeah, I'm back here. So I just forgot to do one quick thing here, which was basically to call the function. So yeah, this is gonna work. So we're just gonna create another custom event called API enable input, right? And the same thing, but instead of saying disable, enable input, right? And you want to make sure that the player controller is the target, and the target here is empty. So just hold Alt, click on here, or right click and break the connection. And when we start, for now, we are just gonna set up our character here to not be moving around. Right, there's the next problem that we gotta do here, which is basically, I'm just gonna call, I'm just gonna do something like this. We're gonna call this player controls, right? Control. Now the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to change our camera. So our camera here is doing like this. So it's always facing, sorry, not that, the follow camera. So our camera here is like facing, what is it? Here. So it's like facing our character, something like this, right? So what we're going to do here is we are going to just create a special node in here, and we are going to create another event called custom event again, and we're going to call API, let's call it change camera, or camera, let's call camera creation mode or something, right? And then what we're going to do here is actually, let's just call this API change camera location, right? And what we want to do is that we're gonna get our camera, and we're gonna set relative location, right? And I think in our case, set relative location and rotation, and then we're just gonna pop those values there, right? Like this. And then we are gonna call for now this node in there, and let's just find a value that works for us. So what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna put this guy like here, and the rotation is gonna be something like minus 80, right? Now I think that will be good. Okay, now let's change those values. This is gonna be, that is going to be our value for now. You can play with those values, whatever it fits for you. For me, those are correct for now. And then it's gonna be 180, right? Now I'm just gonna put my camera position to the way it was before, right? Cool. Now if I press play, the camera should be facing my character. That's great. So now we have a character, and let's start the widget, right? Before we do this, we're gonna open up our controller because we're gonna be handling this on our controller. But before we can do that, let's just make sure that we have our widget stuff that we can control. Alright, so to do that, we're gonna go back to main, we're gonna create a new folder, and we're gonna call widgets, right? And here we're gonna create another folder called canvas, right? Or instead of canvas, we're gonna just call character creation. Open up that, right? Now in here we are gonna create another one called WBP. Let's call main canvas for now, or main character creation. Main character creation, just so something that makes sense. Now in here we are going to add a canvas, right? Nice. And the way I want this to look is that I want like World of Warcraft style, where you have just a left side panel or something. So we're gonna create here, we're gonna get a horizontal box. No, sorry, a vertical box. I'm gonna put this box here. I'm gonna call this character box or something. I'm gonna align it to the bottom, and the alignment here is just gonna put 0.5. The position is gonna be 0. Great. Now I'm just gonna do something. I don't know the size yet, so I'm just gonna probably put full size in here. As long as it fits my screen, it's fine. Cool. Compile and save. Now let's do the design of the items that we want to change here, right? So we are going to get a horizontal box, right? Like this. And then we're gonna have a button here. And this button is gonna be decrease. And we're gonna add a text inside, right? And the text is going to basically be the minus sign. And let's just put it black for now, right? And then I'm gonna duplicate this button called add, right? Duplicate it by holding Control D if you're on Windows. And in here, we're just gonna press plus, right? Nice. And now I'm gonna add a text on the middle. And this text is gonna be something like, I don't know, like let's say torso or something, or torso, right? Now, one thing I want to do is I want to make sure everything aligns on the middle. Compile and save. And then on the button here, I'm gonna align to, I think it's fill. I'm just gonna leave the way it was. I'm just gonna add some padding here. So on this button here, we're gonna add padding. Left is going to be like 30. Oh, sorry, other way around. It's padding right. And on the other guy here is going to be left 30, right? Now compile and save. Great. Now let's just add this widget before we can do anything else. So to do that, we are going to go to, we're going to do that on our controller. So open up our player, character creation controller. Now on here, we're going to create a widget when we start this game. The widget is going to be WBP main character, right? And we're just going to set as a creation widget ref, right? And in here we're gonna add to the viewport. Nice. Now if you press play, that should be added, which is good, as you guys can see. I think the alignment is a little bit off. Let's just, but we can now play with those values for now. Alright. And we're just gonna put it in that, something like this, you know, whatever it works for you guys. You can spend more time as well making pretty if you want to. I'm just kind of want to make sure that's fine for me. Right, so when I press here and that, so now what we have to do here, if you guys remember, on our our character that we have to do glasses. How many glasses we have, I don't know, but so we have to do the hair, we have to do the legs, right? We have a couple of different legs in that we can change, right? So we have at least one glass, we have two hairstyles, we have the facial hair, and then we have the legs and things like this, right? So to do that, what we're gonna do here is we are going to first just make sure our widget is reusable, because right now if we want to create here, we're gonna have to, you know, duplicate that. You know, that works, but it's not the best way of doing this. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna go back in here, I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna create something called another widget. I'm gonna call WBP part selection or something, right? Open up that part selection, go back to your main widget. Now we're gonna copy this value, go back to the widget we have just created, click on the root element and just press paste. And it's gonna be all weird out, and what you can do here is just make sure you do desired screen. There we go, gets better. Now let's work out a couple of APIs that we can use to make sure that we can have our widget working correctly. So the first one here is to make sure that the buttons are picking up the events. Easiest way to do this, really simple. We are gonna create two events, and the first one is going to be let me just rename it to increase, and the other one is decrease, right? And what we're doing here is that we click on the button and then we click in this on clicked. Same thing for the other one. Nice. Now if you're increasing, we're going to call the event that increase, and if you are decreasing, then we're going to call the event that are decreasing, and that's about it. Right. Now the next thing that we want to do here, we're going to create a new variable called selection name, right? And this is going to be a string. Make sure it's public, expose on spawn if we have to. And now what we're going to do here, we're going to get our torso selection thing here. Make sure it's a variable, and let's change this name to selection name, right? Or name selection in this case. That's it. Get this part, and we're gonna set text, and we're gonna make sure we call on the event pre-construct. The reason why we call in the pre-construct, because the pre-construct runs before the component is mounted. So yeah, so what we're gonna do here is just plug the selection name to that, and now look how cool is this. What we can do is that when you compile and save, if you select this part, we should have the selection name, and what I can do here is put something like, I don't know, legs, right? And that will change the automatic for us. And I'm just gonna put a default value here of something like, yeah, legs is fine, cool. Compile and save, great. Now that we have this done, so we have our widget component ready, we can delete this guy, and we can search in the palette, WBP part selection, drag it in here. Let's align this to the center. Now I'm gonna call this one first. Let's call torso. Let's do another one for hair, and then another one for legs. Yeah. Now the first one here, we are gonna just add some padding. There's many ways you can add padding. There's a way I like to do as well, which is called spacer. So you can search for something called spacer. You put it between them, and then you give a padding of something like 10. 10 normally works. And then you just duplicate that, and then you put it below the next one, and that'll be fine. Now if I press play, legs, 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 so everything said legs, so let's just give the right names. So the first one is going to be torso, The next one here is going to be our hair, and the next one going to be legs, which is already done for us. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. Yeah, so what we're gonna do here is, yeah, let's just make sure it's working. Cool. So the next episode, we're gonna start to do our character customization. So we're gonna create the structure before we can do the customization. So we're gonna be doing that in the next one. So once again, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I see you in the next one.